Hello everyone. So as you can tell, the videos are back, and I'm gonna use this one to explain how to identify point of view and also what is point of view. So what you will see is that this is not something that's very difficult, but it is something that you'll need to practice. Otherwise, you will forget and you will not memorize it. So let me go ahead and get started, and I will hopefully be able to explain what this is to you by the end of this video. Alright, so first of all, what is point of view? So the definition for point of view is the narrator's position in relation to a story being told. Alright, and maybe that does not make sense right now. I'll go back to that at the very end. But you mainly have to focus on these couple words, the narrator's position. So you have to focus on the narrator. And let me right now give you some examples of what is point of view, or sorry, examples of the different points of views, and this will make a little more sense. All right, so point of view, first person versus third person. So at this point, you may have heard about first and third person already. If that is the case, then this will just be a review for you. If not, pay close attention. So, oh, and before I forget, obviously in here you see first and third. You are not seeing second. That is because second person point of view is not really ever used. For the most part, we use first or third person, which is what I'm going to explain right now. All right, so in first person, the narrator is putting himself in the story or herself and is using pronouns such as I and we. Okay, so the narrator is in the story, and that is the first person point of view. Um, so a lot of times when there's a first person point of view, you'll see that the author's using I or we or us or our, um, and those pronouns give you the clue that the author's putting his or herself in the story. The other point of view is a third person point of view, and this is where the narrator describes the story from an outside perspective or as an observer. So in this case, the narrator will not be using I, we, us, ours. The narrator is just describing, and it is describing as if it was not part of the action, solely as an observer. Okay, and right now I'll give you some examples that will make some more sense. All right, so here are some examples of a first and a third person point of view. So here's first person and here's third person, and these examples are connected. So this one's connected with this one, the second bullet point with the second bullet point over here, and so forth. So again, first person, you're using I or we. You're putting yourself in the story. In this sentence, it says, I was running to the store. Because you're using I, that is what makes it a first person point of view. You're putting yourself in the story. Now, in the third person, the narrator is just observing. Okay, an observer. So in here, the third person point of view would say he was running to the store. Okay, so notice the difference. In here, you're putting yourself in the sentence, in the action. In here, you're just observing. So first person, I was running to the store. Third person, he was running to the store. Okay, and I will go down through these examples, so hopefully you see the pattern. So first person point of view, I thought he looked very intelligent. I. Third person point of view, he looked very intelligent. Okay, just describing, does not use I or we. Over here, it says we went to the park together. That is in first person. Third person is they went to the park together. Okay, we versus they. Okay, first versus third. And lastly, first person is that was a very fun experience for us. Okay, that's a keyword us. And then in third person, that was a fun experience for them. Us right here versus them, first versus third. Okay, so first person's always putting yourself in the story. In third person, you're just observing and describing. Okay, and um, for a story as a whole to be considered first or third person, it does not necessarily need to have I or we in every single sentence. As long as a couple sentences are using I or we, and then everything around it is very clearly being told as a first person, then that would be a first person point of view. And the same would go with a third person. So in here I have two very similar paragraphs. There's mainly, I think, just like 3 or 4 different words between these two. So the first two sentences for these are exactly the same, which are: the kid went to the store to buy food for his family. He seemed to be lost and did not know where to find the stuff he needed. Okay, so up to this point, it looks like third person because you're observing and you're describing. But if I continue, this then shifts into first person. It says, I went ahead and asked if he needed help, and he said yes. Then we shopped together, and the kid got everything he needed. All right? So it is using I and then we. So this entire paragraph is using first person. That is because of the I and the we. Okay, all of this is in the context where the narrator is putting his or herself in the story. Now, if I compare that to this one, we have the same two sentences, which seem to be third person, and I will continue reading. A man went ahead and asked the boy if he needed help, and he said yes. Then they shopped together, and the kid got everything he needed. So this right here is third person, and it stays as third person because nowhere in here does the author use I, we, us, ours, because those are the pronouns that give you that first person. And here the narrator is just observing the entire time. Okay, so observing the entire time, third person, and then when you put yourself in the story, that's first. Okay, so now just to wrap everything up, I want to review again the definition of point of view, which is the narrator's position in relation to a story being told. Okay, so always remember, point of view is the position of the narrator. Are they in the story? Are they outside of it? What's going on with them? So that's it to explain point of view. That's a very quick overview. Now go ahead and complete your practice, and correct it if you need to correct it.